to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. Joining me from Grafton, Massachusetts, on the other side of the screen with his beautiful green yard and his back thing. The only thing you guys can't see is the green screen, but it turns into books. But for all of my listeners, we have Bill Zujewski on speaking about what's your life score, and the subtitle is A Playbook for Designing Your Best Life. Bill, good day to you.
Thank you, Greg, for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I'm looking forward to this podcast because this is so needed. You know, when you live in a world that's so fast paced and people, the loneliness scores are off the roof. They don't understand why. And you virtually have taken and put it in as you're probably out of balance. The other thing is Bill is the inventor of Zen Score and Good Life Score. And we're going to be talking about that during the interview. And we'll be giving you also links in the blog entry here underneath the YouTube video to his website so that you can go download this. And during the course of this interview, we're going to actually have some fun and we're going to pop up some of the screenshots from his app that he has spent so much time developing and is so dedicated to. But I'm going to tell him a little bit about you. So Bill is a seasoned entrepreneur, executive, visionary, and profound family man. That's for certain. He brings decades of leadership experience to the table as the inventor of Zen Score, trademark, and founder of Good Life, LLC. He's dedicated his life to helping people achieve balance, purpose, and happiness. Devoted husband and father with 4 amazing children, now thriving in their 20s. I have a son whose birthday today is 44. He's 44. Bill provides insights that blend personal growth, family values, and actionable tools for success. I actually think that probably Bill is closer to my eldest son's age. 44, is that what you are?
No, I'm in my 50s. Let's just say I'm in my 50s.
Okay, there you go. Not
But
much difference.
yeah, as you know today, age is so different from 30, 40 years ago, right? Uh, I mean, you can feel like you're in your 30s or 40s. I mean, we have a president who's 80. So I figure you and I still have a good 20, 30 years still in us.
And we do. And when I look at it, age is just a number, as they say, and it's really how you feel. And the whole idea of this book and these apps is to get you feeling better. So let's kind of dive into the book a bit, and then we'll talk about the apps as well. Um, the book opens up with this powerful statement, the good life. All right, so who defines the good life? We all want it, but what is it? And you, after creating this Zen score and developing this life assessment framework, how has your definition of the good life evolved? Because, you've now seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these scores, and you can see at least a score. Obviously, you don't know all the people, much about the people, but you can see what's affecting their happiness.
Yeah, no. Um, and it's changed. I'm glad you said that. It's kind of evolved as we grow, mature, from young adults to mid adults to older. I would say early on, I thought of the good life, stereotypical, great house, summer home, yacht, money, living the good life, right? And then as I raised my 4 kids and family, I'm like, that was way more fulfilling than the career. And the good life for me became going on vacations and sharing that love with my family and all these and friends. And now the good life, and it's almost a play on words. The good part is actually doing some good for the world, right? Having a purpose bigger than than yourself. So I landed on Good Life as the name of the company, mostly because both I think the definition of good life has to change, where it's kind of a healthy, fulfilling, relationship full life. And hence, we'll get into my kind of score and measuring all those areas of your life, but then also doing, some good in the world.
Yeah, and I want to, for my listeners, life is spelled Liife, right? So just so they know.
It is a brand decision. I couldn't get the domain goodlife.com. I think it was so expensive. So,
So
but
what you put two eyes in and you got it. So there you go. That's it.
eyes,
So
yeah.
Bill, just personally, how did you get here from there? So when you look at your profile on LinkedIn, which is the only place I know to look at it, you see this life filled with work and all these other kind of things. And obviously, something must have transpired for you along the way to say, hey, I'm going to go change everything that I've done to actually build this company, become an entrepreneur, and dedicate yourself to helping people have a happier, more fulfilling life. How'd you get here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I look back and probably typical of most young professionals in their 20s and even my younger 30s, it was all about ambition and career and getting to the executive level. And I was getting there. In fact, I got there, almost by 30. And then I was there and I'm like, it was still something was missing. And in fact, life was actually the worst it's ever been. I was, like, traveling to California 2, 3 times a month on a plane, um, always thinking about on the weekends my emails I gotta get to. I started dreading Sundays. I don't know if your listeners out there, you have that same feeling, "Oh, no, the weekend's over. Back to the real world on Monday." I'm like, "Why should life be that, heavy of a burden?" And so I actually slowed down a little bit. I actually resigned from my California job. I had a 1, 3, and 5-year-old at home, my poor wife, and started spending more time and realized, you know what, I could put some of the ambition on hold and still make a good living working 40 hours and being focused on putting 40 quality hours in, but disconnecting at night, going to Disney, going on vacation, going to the gym, and it worked for me, and I just started from that point on, I just made a point of living a more balanced life because I felt myself kinda relieved from the stress that I felt when I was, too career focused.
Well, part of that is, people get so enamored with achievement because the ego says you're not enough, right? And
Mhm.
I was reading your chapter this morning, believe it or not, around how you had ignored your health. You're like, I was never in the gym. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And this is one of those balance points on your card, right? So
Yeah.
you were living the imbalanced life, which is what you just explained.
Mhm.
So, can you discuss how a balanced life score transformed you? And can you share a specific moment when you realized the need for this system? Meaning this system that I mean, look, we've seen these, all of us,
Yeah.
way before Bill, right?
Right. The wheel of
We'll
life. Yeah.
That's right, the wheel of life, and how implementing it created this tangible shift for you in your own well-being. Because, the wheel of life's been around, whatever it is, 9 points or however many points. In your case, it's health, relationships, growth, work, leisure, home, money, purpose. But in your case, you went a step further. You said, "Well, I can actually develop an app and get a
Yeah.
Zen score out of this," right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back and it was probably the engineer in me 20, 25 years ago, end of the year, we would have these New Year's resolution time. And my approach, I had this little spreadsheet and I looked at how the year went and then what I'm gonna do, focus on the next year. And it literally was a spreadsheet. I had like, how did my career go? How did my pay at work? How's my fitness? How's my relationship with my wife? did I take a vacation? I literally I would score myself 0 to 10 in like 13, 14 rows. And then it was really more about pausing and being more intentional about self-reflecting on your life, right? And getting off the wheel and just thinking about these areas separately. So I did that for years. And then my kids, I saw them, graduating college. I saw them getting super ambitious, and holy smokes, the same thing I was going through, the stress, the pressure of their job. They stopped showing up for certain family events because they had too much work piled up. And I was like, oh no. And so I started using it with them. I said, listen, you got to weigh relationships more importantly than your career. You're doing fine in your career. So I started using it with my kids. And after I left the corporate world, I went to this I created this scorecard around green business with these 2 other founders, and the green scorecard is pretty cool for small business. So last year, I'm like, "How about a scorecard for life? Take what I kind of built for myself and see if I can share that in, like, a mobile app and another app for other people to use." So, yeah, you go through these 11 questions really deep and, those 11 areas, and it spits out your Zen score between 0 and 100 and how you're doing with living a purposeful, happy, healthy, balanced life.
Yeah, I think it's important. People like to measure things, even for those people who don't like to plan. You said life is easier with a plan. You obviously had your life planned out. A lot of people would say, no, 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 I want to be spontaneous. I don't want that plan. But in chapter one, you write about how our brains can adapt and change more when we imagine, right? In other words, use our imagination. Um, I have a friend who wrote a book about worry, and I want to throw this in here because he says worry is misuse of the imagination. And so the reality is that you write about that. So what's the most significant personal belief or habit that you've had to rewire in your own brain in your life? And this is an important one because we all need to be rewiring and refiring.
100%. Yeah. So, I it's funny you should say that I think there's studies, the more intellectual and smarter you are, the bigger your imagination, the more your mind spins about all the things that can happen, and that's possible, and you end up being more anxious than the average person. And that was me. And then I look back. I actually in 2011 I had a little bit of a health scare. I had to have surgery on my bladder. Had some chronic disease kind things come up, and it was whoa, the power of the mind. I was so anxious, almost had panic attacks. I was so scared that my fear was turning into physical ailments that were actually worse than the thing that was actually
Mm.
fixed with
You
my
didn't almost have panic attacks. You had
I
panic
did
attacks.
I did it. Mind is such a powerful thing, and I had to
I'm familiar with them myself. I know
yeah.
how painful they are. Yeah.
You have to, when you realize that your mind could be tricking you into thinking things are real that aren't real, you realize you gotta reprogram. So I actually got help compartmentalize some of that stuff. And sure enough, when I just started to put it on the stop thinking about it, I started feeling better. And when I started getting busier with my friends, relationships, other things to distract me, life got better, and all that stuff, all that baggage and that fear, anxiety, it just went away. And I've never had it in a long time. I'm still anxious sometimes if my kids aren't home at certain hours or traveling, but that heavy anxiety I had is gone, and hopefully for good.
Well, and again, I think it's anxiety for whatever that we have.
Mhm.
Again, that worry, that anxiety. is a misuse of that imagination. It's saying, oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if this happened? And so you're thrusting yourself into the future, and it's your imagined future, which usually never comes true, especially when it's about the negative stuff.
Right.
Um, so, your Help Grow framework uh, covers 8 essential life areas. We just said they were health, environment, leisure, purpose, growth, relationships, occupation, and wealth. Was there a ninth category that almost made the cut? And which area do you feel most people struggle with after seeing these scores? I think I have an idea of which one it is because I think
Yeah.
our world has put so much focus on it. And if I was to guess I'm just going to throw it out there to you. And hopefully I'm not, if it first came to me that wealth and relationships were the top two. Because I think that's the one that most people struggle with. And what's probably one is probably relationships, and number two as well.
Yeah. So the two-part question. So first part, there was actually three other categories that didn't fit nicely into the Help Grow mnemonic. All right. So I had to put my marketing hat on there. So in your Zen score, there's actually 11 categories that I include three others beyond Help Grow. I took relationships and I split that into romance and friendships because I think the relationships are that important, and your relationships with your partner or your life partner, right, is a little different than your friendship. So I split that up into two. And then the vision. Having a vision, I'm a huge believer, is super important. So I took purpose, and kind of split it out to having purpose, but then having a vision for what your life looks like as another category. And then the last one was mindset. Again, that's I just split out health into physical health and mental health, because mental health is such a big part of your life and getting your mindset right. So those are the three categories that are kind of subcategories buried within the help grow. I think most people focus on wealth as to measure their life, and I think it's a terrible metric.
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too.
I'm not saying money's not important, of course. You need money to go on vacation. You need money to go enjoy dinner with your friends and dine right. I mean, you need some you and then you need to work hard to make money. So all those things are important, but coincidentally, this book, Good Life, The Good Life out of Harvard by two professors, took a study of these 3,000 people for almost 80 years and trying to figure out what were the indicators of health, longevity, happiness throughout someone's life. And by far, almost 2 to 1 in all those other categories was relationships. That the people around you, your closest partner, your circle of friends, especially as you get older, will be more deterministic of your longevity and how you feel than any other thing.
Totally true. I mean, that's that Harvard study of adult development that you're even.
Yes, exactly.
And that was an 80-year study. So if people want to look that up, they can. And the other thing that's been said so many times, and we've heard it, is, people strive so much for this wealth, but in the reality, happiness, in our society today, you can make an income of between 60 and $70,000. It's been proven by
Right.
statistic over statistic.
Mhm.
And anything above that doesn't make you any happier,
Yeah.
right? So if
Yeah.
you're striving for more than that, you're not going to be happy. Now, I do agree that having something to fall back on is important, having some kind of savings, not living from paycheck to paycheck. But truly, that is kind of the level that they've determined. Now, you talk about learning helplessness as the opposite of the growth mindset. Okay. And it's called learned helplessness.
Mhm.
Um, and so in this case, what advice would you give someone who recognizes they're stuck in these patterns of learned helplessness in a particular area of their life. It doesn't matter if it's the health area, the wealth area, the relationship area, because a lot of times we sabotage ourselves with our own stinking thinking, as
Oh, yeah.
Zig Ziglar used to say that you're stinking
Good,
thinking.
yeah. He would say it.
Do you remember his statement? This is a long time ago, but you probably would remember this, and many of my listeners. He says, "Your aptitude isn't determined. Your aptitude. What was it? Your aptitude does not determine your altitude. It's your attitude,
Right, right.
right?"
Yeah, and
So
another great quote I'll throw if we're referencing old books, Earl Nightingale with "You are what you think."
there you go.
Right. Yeah, so it's another simple.
So what about learned helplessness, Bill? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
tell people?
I know, because there's a lot of people blaming their circumstances, the state of the world. And some of that is just self-talk that they don't realize is happening, and they're not realizing that some of those thoughts aren't true, and they're kind of random or driven by their ego, that if they stopped and truly became mindful of some of these random thoughts and stop believing them, they could actually rewire themselves to be more positive, be more ambitious, take action. So, um, it's probably oversimplistic to say the mind is like this giant computer that you can reprogram it, but I definitely think you can. I definitely think you can change your thinking, and one of the hottest areas right now is that whole mindfulness, understanding consciousness more about what's real and what's not going on in your mind.
I think it's neuroplasticity. And the reality is, you've got the superconscious, the conscious, the subconscious. And inside that subconscious that's being programmed, it's the one normally that's telling you you can't, or you don't, or you're not enough, or you're whatever. Whereas when that's reprogrammed by whatever technique you choose to use, in my case, it's hypnosis, you really can get beyond the program that it's running. You
Right.
basically reprogram it, right?
Right.
And when you do, it's amazing what happens. I know I've reprogrammed mine. I've had a few little surgeries, and I go to a guy and we do that, it's going to heal. You can kind of see this shiny thing on my head. I had 40 stitches and cancer, and literally it's gone. And this is only 2 weeks old. So the reality is that, you can expedite healing. You can do everything clearly with the mind. The Chinese used to actually put people into a state of consciousness and not use anesthesia.
Mhm.
Really, they could cut on the body without this. And that's how powerful the mind is. Now, people don't really understand that, but it is true. So, in your chapter, we'll go back to relationships because we were talking about that. You mentioned that a life shared is a life truly lived. Um, how has your understanding of this, you shared a little bit about your family and the shift, about relationships as a cornerstone of well being, influenced how you prioritize connections in your own life? Because, I heard your story. You were running, running, running. You never had time for anything. You knew you were imbalanced. You didn't know how quite to get back to this balanced life. But you truly, it was around the love of your family that really brought you back to understanding. And you had a life scare with your kidney.
Right.
So what I heard is two things. One, you had, hey, your wife was saying, hey, guess what, Bill, you're never home. And two, you had this kidney deal and you decided these two things were painful enough, you needed to do something. Would that be a good assessment?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Um, and then when you start giving more, right? And that's what we're talking about here, to family, to friends, um, you actually feel the joy. You do, right? So I guess like if there was no one to share, I was fortunate. I was actually in software, eats the world. I was in software for 25 years. So I've done pretty well. I've got a little summer place. What would that summer place be if I couldn't share it with family and friends who come there and have amazing moments together? Right, that's what I'm talking about. Half the things that we have would be pointless if we weren't able to share them, right? And so that's where I realize now, um, giving stuff away makes me feel really good. And same with helping people. That whole self-talk thing, I have a lot of anxiety in our family, and I know I've been able to help them, coach them through some of the negative self-talk circles that they had to stop listening to. Otherwise, they were going to drive themselves crazy. So, again, I felt something good in helping people with their life in that way as well. So it becomes super evident once you hit some of your kind of other milestones that true life fulfillment does come from kind of sharing, giving, all those aspects. It's not just hyper.
Generosity, totally, and you're an extremely generous man, and thank you for your donation to Compassionate Communications, our nonprofit as well. So, you know, the Good Life Score app. Now let's just talk about this app because people might be a bit confused. You've got the Zen
Mhm.
and the Good Life Score app. It seems to be, and when you go to your website, it says for individuals, for coaches, right? You got these things that you can actually do. Clarify for the listeners these practical applications, kind of the philosophy, and what was the most challenging aspect of translating these principles into this digital tool
Mhm.
that people could actually use. I think you've kept the interface from a computer talk sense
Mhm.
pretty simple. So the UI here, just for all my listeners who understand computer speak, which probably most everybody does, you being in the software business, you knew what you had to do. You had to keep this simple, and you did. You had to keep it practical, and you did. And you had to make it so that people could do it quickly, and you did.
Mhm.
What would you add to this element other than the commercial I just gave?
Yeah, so thank you, yeah. So there and thank you for noticing that there's actually 2 scores, and they're very different and important at the same time. The first score, Zen score, takes you 2 minutes. Go into the app, and it's 11 questions. It's how you feel about your life. It's your inner score. It's your mindset. How do I feel about my health? How do I feel about my wealth? How do I feel about my relationships? And it'll just going through that Zen score assessment will kind of uncover holes, right? Or blind spots that you have that you might not have thought of, you know, about how you feel about what you're doing in those areas. So that's your Zen score, takes 2 minutes. The life score is like a life diagnostic. It's your outer score. It's what you're doing, your actions, your habits. So like when you go in and it takes like 20 minutes. So just like wealth is one of the categories, right? If you took the life score wealth part of it, it's going to ask you, are you saving 10% of your paycheck every week? Is your mortgage less than one third of your income? Do you pay off your credit cards every month? Do you have a 6-month rainy day fund? Do you have a retirement or IRA or 401k? Do you know of mutual funds and stocks and how they work? Do you have a finance? So it's like these are the things that people who are like financially secure and doing well with their finances. Do you have a budget? Like do in life to have their financial house in order. So like my life score is, hey, are you doing these 12 things in the wealth category? Here's the playbook of what you should be doing, and here's your life score if you actually are doing it. And I do the same thing for health and relationships and occupation. Health's going to look at whether you're doing cardio and weight training and stretching and mindfulness and your heart rate, like, black and white diet, best practices of leading a healthy life. So, some would argue that we're all too different. There's no playbook for life. I get it. There's no identical playbook, but there's things that we know most people who are happy, healthy, fulfilled are doing and have their life in order. And I think what I'm trying to do is kind of share those practices in this life score, light and playbook with people and see how they compare to what they should be doing.
So in this life score, do they have the ability to like download this or is it just on the app only?
Right
Practical
now,
question.
yeah, right now there's two ways to figure out your life score. Actually, if you want the number, it's like a credit rating between a 0 and 1,000. You actually have to download the app onto your phone or use the web version. You can go to goodlife.com, join Good Life, and get access to the web application to do either your Zen score or life score. Zen score is free, so you can go to your app store and search
And how much is the good life?
the Good Life is $95 a month. I mean, a year.
Okay.
And then there's a coaching version. I have coaches using it as a great engagement tool. Like, think of a coach coming to you and saying, "Hey, fill out this Zen score and life score. In our first meeting, we'll figure out what you need to work on." So it's a great coaching tool as well. That one's 360 a year because it's got client professional collaboration tools, goal setting, and things like that. So Good Life, I mean, at its core, I am a software company, right? That's what Good Life is, trying to codify life's best practices, and give people tools to help them, get good at life.
Well, if people wanted to reach out to you, we can give them your email address or they can go to the website and they can contact you through the website, right? To
For
get
sure.
their info.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a coaching group or it's a coach or it's somebody like that who wants to utilize the software with their clients. Correct?
Yes, for sure. You can go ahead, you'll get a feel for it with the free Zen score version, but also if you want to see the coaching version, you can reach out to me. I'll give you a demo. We can set up a quick Zoom and I can go over the features with you. There is one other way to kind of get your score, but not exactly, which is a lot of what my app is based on is in my book. So at the end of each of the chapters on health and home and growth and relationships, there is the paper version
Right.
of the assessment that you can take and score yourself 0 to 10 in each of these areas. So you don't have to be a tech wizard. You could actually get the book, go to Amazon, search for Zujewski or what's your life score, and you'll find my book.
So, important question. Um, this journey kind of all started with this you called the group text. It was the life lesson with your
Yes.
4 children.
Yeah.
Um, what's been the most meaningful feedback that you've received from your family about the lessons that you've shared with them in the book?
Um, okay, first of all, I highly recommend it to anyone with children. It's a great way to stay engaged with them, right? I'm sure most people have a family text already. This one's just me and my 4 children's, and it's and the title of the group text is Life Lessons, and I share about one per month with them. I've been doing it for 10 years. And what's amazing is every once in a while we're out for dinner and they'll quote some little life lesson that I gave them. The other day, my son, the stock market was crashing, and he said, "Don't catch a falling knife, Dad." And I'm like, "You're right." If don't, right, so a lot of people think stock is on discount because it's going down. It might be going down for a reason. So, they remember those little life lessons. People reciprocate. Like I did something, earlier last year, and I did it for free. And one of my kids says, "Yeah, they'll return that favor right back to you, Dad, won't they?" I said, "Yes, people reciprocate." so, so yeah, it's fun to see. You never know when kids are reading your texts and taking them seriously, but I actually have seen them spit it back to me over the last few years, and it's kind of gratifying.
Such a great way to have this thing evolve. In other words, to have this software evolve, do you evolve for you to learn from your own life lessons and then choose to build software to bring it out to the world and then find how to expand that even further. And with that being said, as you look forward into the future, how do you envision life score concept evolving? Are there ways you hope to see it adapted into different demographics or different cultures or areas? Or How do you see this thing growing, Bill?
Yeah, so my moonshot here is that there's no metric now for life. I'm sitting at dinner 5 years from now, and I hear the table next to me, "What's your life score, Joe?" "Oh, mine's 730. What's yours?" "Oh, 820." And that actually people's consciousness have changed from thinking of wealth as the metric, but more of this whole balanced, relationship, loving life as a better metric, and that people are using life score as that metric, right? There is a kind of change the world here too, right? Which is there's so much materialism and jealousy and polarization. Like if I can help people start thinking about, life in a different way, that's my moonshot.
That was a great explanation of your moonshot. Sitting next to a table, or you hear somebody at the other table asking about their life score. And regardless of what the score was, the fact was is you created awareness by using the application. Also, we're going to create awareness because for our listeners, you're going to go to Amazon and pick up the book. And even if you don't get the app, as he said, you go to the end of each chapter, score yourself, and you'll get your life score. I think the bigger question is not that you have a life score. What is it that you're going to do about it?
Right.
What is it that you're going to implement in your life to get there? Now, in reading the book, you get some of Bill's, great pictures that he's put in here, some of his own life lessons. And obviously, everybody listening out there has their own lessons. And the key here is, you know, when you're on the growth line, when you're learning, when you're applying what Bill is actually making aware to you, you actually can start to change those neural pathways, change your thinking and your mindset, and really live a life which is coming less from fear, less from anxiety, the anxiety that you had, less from worry, and more from being compassionate, grateful, understanding, hopeful, all the other things, the adjectives that describe the polarities that we're talking about here. And so I want to thank you for coming on Inside Personal Growth and sharing with our listeners. We'll have links to your both of the websites to be able to get this down, and we'll also have a link to Amazon to get a copy of the book. You've been a wonderful guest on Inside Personal Growth, sharing your own personal story, your insights, and how this software actually evolved. And for everybody who wants to actually go out and get the free Zen score, what is the website you'd like to send them to, Bill? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can go to goodlife.com with two eyes, goodlife, one word.com, or you can go to the Apple store, your app store on your phone and type in Good Life or Zen Score and download the mobile version. Either version, they're very similar. Will get you going with figuring out. Hopefully by now you're curious on knowing what your Zen score and life score are.
So, are both of those apps available in Android and iOS version?
Natively only on Apple, but if you have an Android, the web browser version is designed so it displays nicely on your Android phone. So just bring it up
Okay.
in
You have
Chrome.
to actually type it into Chrome to
Yeah, you
get
go to
to it. You don't actually have an Android app. I
no
want
app,
that
you
to be
go to goodlife.com. Yeah.
I just want to make it clear for people because I tried that myself and I realized that there wasn't an app
There's no app.
over at the Google store. So
Right.
be clear, no app at the Google store, but if you're running on Apple, you can get the app, right?
Correct. Good catch.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Bill, so much. It's a pleasure having you on Inside Personal Growth, you sharing your insights. We'll make sure that this gets out to all the listeners. There'll be a Wise Note version of this well for all of my listeners so they know. And again, go pick up a copy of the book. Go check out the apps. We'll have links below. You'll see it here where you'll be able to link into that. And I appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing to make the world a good life.
Thanks, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Namaste to you, brother. Thanks.
Good life.